It's all that intellectualized, looking for hidden meanings. It's just gone crazy, that's all.
Well, hello, my friends. It is me, Countess, back to sort of just talk about another interesting topic in the realm of the memoirs of Billy Shears by Mr. Tom Harriet. And in this video, guys, I wanted to take a look at just a few different footnotes in the text and a couple of passages on the topic of soul transmigration, right? Like we talk about it a lot, Paul's soul transmigrating into William, so that William is now Billy McCartney. He is the meshing of himself and of Paul. The 6 and 9 come together so perfectly, just like a perfect yin yang, to form a whole being within Billy's body, right? So I thought it would just be kind of interesting to go through the text and kind of discuss this idea with you guys, because I find it very fascinating. This idea of metempsychosis or reincarnation, it's it stretches all the way back to like the Hindu religion, back 700 BC, as far back as that, with the belief that when the soul passes from, one body, it goes into another, and that the body that the soul transmigrates into could be another human, an animal, or even an inanimate object. So that made me start thinking about, how items, they say that items can be sort of triggers for spirits. And there has been documented proof out there that people can summon spirits through particular items. And so I find that interesting, with the soul being connected to even an inanimate object after it is freed from the body. So this idea, it goes really far back. The Hindus have this belief in their theology. Buddhists do, the Sikhs, even Kabbalistic Jews have this sort of outlook on life, and Pythagoras talked a lot about it back in Greece, and along with Socrates and Plato as well. But Pythagoras kind of gave a very general and easy explanation for it. He basically says that after the soul is freed from the body, it assumes a sort of ethereal vehicle which passes into the regions of the dead. So basically Hades or Sheol, or just the nether regions, I guess. And the soul remains there until it is sent back to this world to inhabit some other body, human or animal. And this process continues on and on until the soul has conquered its trials in the material plane and is purified and sent back to the main source from which it came, from which it was created. So that kind of like falls in line with us not being able to remember each transmigration that we've gone through, each trial and tribulation that we've endured in past lives, because we still need to learn those lessons. And you're not going to learn it if you are born already sort of knowing what to expect. That's the whole thing, is learning the mysteries of existence and life, and purifying yourself and your soul being, complete, fully complete, that it can be returned back to source. So again, I find this whole concept very, very fascinating, and especially in regards to our favorite book, the memoirs. Like I said, I'm just going to go through a couple of different parts of the book which discuss Paul's soul transmigration into Billy and what all of that means, what it means. So let's take a look at page 36. 36, right? 3 6s. Lovely. Or 9, number 9. Just at the bottom of the page, Billy was talking about Paul, and Paul seeming to have developed a sort of death wish. And he says, even though it was self-destructive, something about martyrdom seemed to attract him, Paul. He could not resist playing out the fate he established. He saw something romantic in it. He was dying to be esteemed not only as a great writer and performer, but also as one who could foretell his future. Sealing his fate by pursuing his death, he also established his role as the band's prophet. Not that I fully bought into it. I played along. John and George called him their Lord. Going overboard with the praise of Paul, George went so far as to say that Krishna became Christ, and that Christ became Paul. I did not have enough reason to believe it fully at first. It was too much. It seemed bizarrely absurd for a resurrected Christ to return by reincarnation, and then for some to make him die again in order for him to enter another. Yeah, I wondered if it were possible for me as Horus to embody Paul and others as Osiris. I had my doubts, but was bright enough to recognize the opportunity. So let's take a look at this footnote underneath this passage. Lots of goodies in this one. So it says, while some fans claim that Paul or William is the reincarnation of Antonio Vivaldi, the inner circle sees them as Osiris and Horus. Horus is Osiris's son, who became a blend of the two. William is Horus as Paul, and Paul, in this sense, is a soul transmigrated combination of William, Paul, and the ancient entities that migrated to them before and after Paul's death. Osiris is the son of Marduk, Ra to the Egyptians. Marduk, or Ra, is the son of Enki, and that's Ptah to the Egyptians. After Enki willingly relinquished his position to Marduk, Marduk defeated Enlil, making himself the king of all. The Egyptian sibling gods Osiris, Set, and Isis so closely paralleled the Sumerian sibling gods Enki, Enlil, and Nunhursag that one may postulate that the latter gods either represent the former or that they literally are the same players in either the same incarnation or in a latter one. It is also plausible that when Ra ruled Egypt, all gods before him were said to have come after. According to the legend, Set, who resembles Enlil, kills and scatters the rival brother Osiris, who resembles Enki. Their grieving sister consort Isis, who resembles Ninhursag, gathers what she can find of Osiris's dismembered parts. Isis and Thoth then used energy of the pyramid to repair and resurrect the god long enough for Isis to conceive Horus, presumably by artificial insemination. Isis and Thoth then transferred the soul of Osiris into Horus's body, embodying Osiris. Horus is both father and son. In another tale, Isis, much later, also resurrects the deceased Horus Osiris body, further setting Horus, who was born on December 25th, or perhaps Enki, as the first Christ figure. But Christ wasn't born on December 21st or 25th. There's nowhere in the Bible that claims that was his birthday. It's more likely that Christ was actually born in the autumn, like September, October area. There's a lot of like blending of pagan tradition with the sort of Christian or Roman Christian beliefs. So that water is always very muddy, you know. And I just realized too, this is very appropriate. I'm making this video on Easter Sunday. Talk about, you know, well, Jesus was a resurrection. His soul did not transmigrate, but we're talking about resurrection, reincarnation, you know, coming back as a new entity, and very symbolic. I just kind of made that connection as I was reading. So anyways, so this goes on just to say, you know, it's giving parallels to Paul and Billy with Osiris and Horus. You know, they basically are the same, one and the same, you know, and that's what that footnote was talking about, is Paul's soul transmigration. So, but how did William feel about that? Well, on the next page, on page 38, which 38, 11 is the number of magic in itself. So the magic of this blending of the two, this alchemical event to create the new and improved Billy McCartney. Yes. So at the top of page 38, Billy says, for this role of Paul to work fully, I needed a spiritual connection to Paul. And he got over beyond what he had expected to get. And so the footnote in this, I've read this footnote before in a video, but again, it serves its purpose here in this video that we're talking about. So it says, William felt less like an imposter after a couple months when he sensed Paul's more permanent presence. However, based on beliefs and rituals, those who saw Paul as an avatar for Vishnu expected William to feel the indwelling, not only of Paul, but also of Enki, Osiris, Krishna, Jesus, to give a few names for he whom they considered one God. If Vishnu or Osiris had embodied Paul, and if Paul had embodied William, Billy Shears would become much more than the living Paul, transformed by Shiva to be far beyond a mere idol. The new Paul would be God incarnate. When William felt the indwelling of Paul, but not Krishna Christ, he was troubled. Confidence reassured him that eventually he and Krishna would each enter the heart, mind, and flesh of the other. Having still not felt it by 1988, he wrote this one. In the video, we see him with closed eyes praying to Krishna. He says, did I ever open up my heart, let you look inside? And then, if I never did it, I was only waiting for a better moment that didn't come. There never could be a better moment then this one. William considered the comforts and privileges that he enjoys and contrasted them with Vishnu's less pleasant incarnations. He believed that if he were his avatar, their union would be mutually beneficial. If Vishnu joined him now, it could be Vishnu's most pleasant of all. He sings, "What kind of magic might have worked if we had stayed calm or patient? Couldn't I have given you a better life?" Yes. Okay, so then I just want to look at a couple more footnotes regarding Paul's soul transmigration on page 143, because I'm very interested in how this does affect Billy. How weird it must be to feel sort of guided and channeled by another separate persona, soul, basically. I find it very interesting. In the footnote on page 143, it says, William says, "I feel Paul's energy flowing inside of me. When he performs as Paul, that Paul energy is so strong in him that he has no qualms about saying that Paul McCartney is performing. Although William brings a great deal of himself into every performance, the more a song is in Paul's style, the more the spirit of Paul comes through. When William performs as Paul, intending to be Paul, he sometimes feels that he actually becomes Paul." Yes, he's just like we've talked about before too, when he was learning how to play his instruments, left-handed. Instead of trying to constantly mimic Paul and his style, he eventually had to sort of like give up to the process and become Paul, embrace that part of himself that was there. Okay, so just the last little footnote I wanted to take a look at that I find very interesting. It's on page 416. Again, this numerology reduces to the number 11. In the emboldened text, it says, "I need to replace Paul my whole life." And the footnote makes reference to that. It says, William, in word stacking, says, "I need to replace Paul my whole life. Because of the intended embodiment of Osiris et al., William must play the part permanently. Even if William, or Horace, retires, he would still be Paul, or Osiris/Lucifer, for the rest of his life. It is more common for key players to be everyone and no one, stepping in and out of many prominent roles. That transitory opportunity is a pleasure that William also enjoys by playing uncredited parts on other people's albums, briefly being those people." So those are just a few little bits in the book that discuss this whole idea of McCartney's soul transmigrating into William's and into William's body, basically, so the two become one. Again, it's just very fascinating. This is something that is at the very, very heart of this entire replacement conspiracy. I don't think that Billy would have been able to get away with it or pull it off as effectively if he didn't, in fact, believe that Paul was dwelling inside of him. I mean, look at all of the songs that we've gone over just this far of Billy's that discuss his sort of integration with McCartney and just what a big impact it has had on his life. And many, many different areas of his life. So it's just, I find the entire concept of metempsychosis fascinating. I'm not 100% sure if I believe it, but just my own personal opinion, but I find it very interesting, and it's a thought that many people do agree with. One thing I will say that has made me wonder and question if I've had a past life, and this is appropriate because we're approaching it. So my birthday is April 15th, and a lot of really bad things have happened on that day. Number one, it is tax day here in the United States. Ugh. But something also that happened on my birthday was the sinking of the Titanic. And I have had a reoccurring dream ever since I was little of being on the Titanic as it was sinking, jumping off board, and getting sort of like sucked into the ocean. And I can remember this dream. I have the very exact same dream at least once a year ever since I was little. And it's the whole experience of me dying on board of the Titanic. And it's weird because when I was little, I had this like weird affinity for the Titanic. Like I had to like have all the books on it and know all the research about it. And I was just very obsessed with it. And so that's one sort of like, maybe, maybe I was on the Titanic in a past life. And my birthday, when my soul decided to come back out into the world, was on the anniversary of my death in my previous life. So those are just things that have gotten me thinking in my own life about the possibility, because there is that weird connection. We as individuals focus and sort of obsess on things that speak to our souls, right? And so that must be a connection of something else that we've learned in the past that I don't know. What do you guys think about this whole idea of reincarnation and soul transmigration? What do you think about it in terms of PID? This is a theory in the PID universe that doesn't get talked about very much. People want to talk about how Bill replaced Paul, but people don't want to acknowledge that there is a possibility that Paul is still with us, living on through William. And that's just something to sort of pause and think about how do you feel about that? Do you believe it's possible? Me myself, I think regarding the Cabal and all of their workings and rituals and just their occult knowledge in general, I believe it's definitely something that could happen through the proper vehicles, and rituals and whatnot. So I do think it's definitely a possibility. But I'm also saying that because I believe in the spiritual realm, and I believe it's around us all the time. And all you have to do is sort of pause and you can feel it, at least I do. I don't know. People think I'm really weird, and they always have, because I feel the shift around me sometimes, and I can feel temperatures, or I can smell different smells. It's just very strange. So maybe that does come from past life experiences that I've had. Who knows? I don't know. It's something to think about, though. Again, put it into the whole realm of existentialism, right? And what is the purpose of our existence? This is just stuff that, makes me kind of stop and wonder about what happens next? As far as Paul's soul and Bill's soul, when Billy does pass, will both of their souls just kind of go off to the region of the dead, as Pythagoras says, and wait to be, sort of reincarnated again into another person who will display an immense genius onto the world? Like, that's just kind of like where my mind goes. Like, what happens to the souls, to their souls? Like, what does that mean? Will there be some sort of ritual then? If they performed a ritual to have Paul's soul transmigrate into Billy's, which it's never stated if they do, but I mean, I don't know. I guess that's another loophole in the whole thing too, is how did his soul transmigrate into William? Like, how is this all so perfectly set up and gauged? It seems like they had Paul's number when he was born, just from the astrological charts and whatnot that Kat has revealed. And so, it would be really cool to see if we could ever figure out Billy's chart, just to see if it sort of falls in line with, what they had planned for Paul too. So it's like, what happens in the future now? That's all I want to know. That's what all of this kind of makes me think, and I just don't ever get any sort of resolution to it. It seems like it's like maddening. There's never an answer. And that's the whole thing with philosophy too, right? It's always like walking in circles. Like, you never get to like a set answer. Everybody has their own view on the world and the reality around them. And it's all subjective. So anyways, I'm going off on tangents now. I just wanted to bring up that point. What does happen at the end of William's life? What happens to their souls? Something to think about. And that's basically all I have for this video, guys. Just wanted to kind of touch upon the topic and put it out. What do you guys think about it? Please let me know in the comments below. I would really like to know what your guys' thoughts on this subject matter is, regarding your own personal beliefs or regarding the story from the memoirs. Drop it in the comments. Let me know. And as always, guys, I will see you in my next video. So until then, take care of yourselves. Bye.
But though they may be parted, there is still a chance, Bill, that they will see